And so I think the healthcare industry is one of those humongous, like gigantic industries that needs employees. Fine, nothing wrong. I like the safety. And then you look back, like my parents' generation did, my grandparents, you look back, the kids are grown and you retire with a watch and a thermos. I think millennials have learned, be here, be now, be present. And how can I do that?
Welcome to the Nurse Boss Shift. It's your girl, Dr. Kiana Jones, and I am live. I told y'all I was traveling, right? Crystal is not here with me, but today I am in Philadelphia with Dr. Williams at Medically Fab. Welcome, Dr. Williams.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh.
You are welcome. Listen, you guys, I've been on a plane. I probably went to 4 different states, I think, in the last 3 days. And I really have been touring to interview previous alums of my either mentorship or my masterclass. And Dr. Williams is one of those, and she is absolutely crushing it. So I wanted to bring her here to introduce you to her, but also introduce you to her story. So Dr. Williams, if you could just share a little bit about your background in healthcare.
I've been a physician now since 2015. That's when I graduated med school. My background and specialty is family medicine. I worked in the FQHC world for years, like I guess right after graduating residency. FQHC, so federally qualified health centers, so serving the underserved, which is really like my life's work. I enjoyed that. I got tired. I got really tired. You want something more. I started to feel that pull for something more. So that's what made me kind of go into entrepreneurship.
So when you say you got tired, right? Let me just say this, like millennials, period. And I say I'm really not a millennial. I'm a zillennial, they call me, because I was born in 79. So I'm like
right on the cusp.
But I feel like I'm a millennial, so I claim it. But I do still, sometimes I could see my work, like I have to break through my working challenges as an employee for Gen X, right? So that's what my mom taught me, right? So I have to break through that intentionally, right? But for you guys, it's like, I'm tired. So when did tired? 2015 is when you graduated. When did tired hit?
I think it was during COVID. I was working there during COVID. We became like a COVID testing site. The hours were long. Okay. It was just to the point where I'm spending so much time at work. I have a son. I'm a single mom. Like I'm just bringing him everywhere I go. This is not the life I want for him. And medicine and nursing. Okay, because my mom's a nurse, and this was part of her story too, where she worked so much. That's what I remember from childhood. I remember her working a lot. That's powerful. And I'm like, I don't want my son to feel like I'm always at work. You know, like I feel a responsibility to my patients. How can I have responsibility to my patients, still be there early enough to do homework with him? Like when you feel rushed, your kid feels, they get that. They sense everything. And it's like, all right, let me rush through this homework where no, he needs time. He needs time. I don't ever want him to feel like he's on the back burner. And I was seeing that. I could feel that. I could see that that's what was happening. So I'm like, I need some way where I'm a little bit more in charge of my time, where I can like spend more time with him. That's my goal. Spend more time with him, travel with him. I want him to be a global citizen. I want a life that I don't have to show up somewhere for someone else for these set hours.
And did you consider anything, like, it's very similar to me. Like I remember thinking, I took inventory on me. And then I was like trying to position, okay, so I chose nursing because I took inventory on me. I was like, I get bored easily. Like I want somewhere where I can grow. I want somewhere where I can give. Like I knew what I liked. But then when I got in it, I was like, okay, I want to be a CNO. That's the top. That's where I want to go. But in the process of going through that, I was like, well, salary, 24-hour accountability, like people getting called on vacation, I'm like, nothing in the world, like pay-wise, would make me want to sacrifice my time. I only want to be accountable to my family, right? So as I was working my way up, I was like, well, this ain't it. Okay, well, what is. And then I started looking into entrepreneurship. So had you looked at other, like when you started, did you have this plan to go, what was your top? And then as you started getting closer saying like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Did you go through that or?
Well, two things. First of all, you are a millennial, but just what you just said, we welcome you. Because yes, that was definitely the thought process. I have family, a lot of family that are entrepreneurs and have done well for themselves. But again, that also pushed me away when I was younger because I thought, to me, it just seemed like a lot up front because what I saw was their earlier years. And now I see them living a life where they get to be in the world. And that took a lot for them to get there. So I saw that. So by the time I decided I was open to the idea of entrepreneurship, I was well into my mid-30s. Like I had seen people win, lose, win big, lose big. You know, you're not a boss, so you take a loss and then come back. So I knew the grit that it took, and I knew I wasn't, me personally, I didn't feel like I was ready until I reached that point of something has to change. And now, even if I take a loss, I'm going to get right back. Like, I know what it takes. So that was the mindset I had to be in, and that took me some time. What made me choose a medical spa? Like, you can start any business, but I felt like I was already a patient at a med spa. I had the experience of seeing like how my results made me feel more confident, especially during the COVID era, you know, like getting on Zoom for everything. And then I saw like my tox, I'm like in the camera, like looking at myself, I was looking good. So I was like, I can do this for other people. And Black women are doing it. Brown women are doing this. It's not like, you know, so I'll say taboo as it was like 10 years ago. And I'm like, I can do this. Like I can lead a team, some guidance. I feel like I could lead a team, and I knew I could get back up. And this is something that I believed in. I believed in what tox, filler, weight loss like can do for a woman's confidence and how they show up in the rest of the world. So
as a physician, because I remember when you were in the boot camp and you know how we do our intros and stuff, and you said physician, I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. Because it's really, you don't have to worry about like medical director. You know, I work with a lot of nurses who do. But then over time, what I did start to realize, we have way more in common than we do not. Because of our training, like, yes, you're trained medical, we're trained nursing, but none of it teaches us how to be entrepreneurs. Like now that I work with doctors, I see it. We have the same limiting beliefs. We are afraid because everything is, you're going to lose your license, right? And then even some physicians work for companies who are, you know, these healthcare systems that don't even allow them to use their license outside of the system. And when I found that out, I was like, whoa, this is crazy, right? And then, but you can, it's your license.
It belongs to you, not the organization.
But can you talk about, like, it's hard for us to unpack that. And I was saying, like, we're in a pipeline and we don't even know it. Like, and what I mean is, like, for nursing, I say from orientation, the goal is to get you from orientation to orientation. So it's like you orientation in nursing school, orientation in a job. That's all we're taught during the process. And for you guys, like my medical director, she's a millennial, African Black woman. And she was just saying like, and she's Peds. And she was saying like nothing, there was nothing, not an entrepreneurial class, not a here meet such and such who was the owner of, none of that was included in her training. Can you speak to that? Like, do you feel like that played any?
Oh, 100%. There's always a threat of loss. The threat of like loss of license, the threat of loss of income, the threat of like, we are taught from grade school. This is not just, to me, it didn't just happen in nursing school or med school. It's like, you know, come to school these hours, you know, and that's your dedication. You go home, you do more work, you know what I mean? And then whatever's left is your own time. And that's ingrained in us from childhood. And like, that's the pipeline because like these people at the top who have these large organizations, who's going to work for them? You have to train the general public to be employees. I mean, I get it. And every now and then you get a little outlier on the side, like, well, if you could do it, can I do it? And so I think the healthcare industry is one of those humongous, like gigantic industries that needs employees. Fine, nothing wrong with, I like the safety. You know, I enjoyed the safety of showing up to my job every day. Like I know my paycheck is going to be XYZ and all of that. So, but that's all it'll ever be. And my time will always be here. And then you look back like my parents' generation did, my grandparents, you look back, the kids are grown and you retire with a watch and a thermos from the organization.
Right.
And you can never get that time back. I think millennials have learned, be here, be now, be present. And how can I do that? In what way can I try at least to do that? Yeah.
And I think people who listen to like our podcast and other entrepreneur podcasts, I think there's a difference with, okay, I work harder now. It feels different. It's like I can be up all night, crush something that I'm working on for my business, and I don't feel the same level of, I may be tired, whatever, but it is different because it's for me, it's the future of my kids versus working hard for some corporation. Most likely it's going to be a large corporation if you're in healthcare, for the CEOs or the whomever. It feels different. And I think there has to be a level of, we were talking about this before we started recording, of crazy to step outside of a system that has told you otherwise. Like, it's told you that this is the pipeline. This is what you need to do. Look forward to your retirement. Take a vacation for 2 weeks. Or if you're in healthcare, you may be lucky to get 5 weeks, right? But you still are working and you still are accountable to them. And like, it took one time for my kid to get sick and I couldn't leave, for me to say this, and this was before I ever launched, and of course they try to accommodate you, but the feeling of having to depend on someone else in that moment, and all I could do was wait to get the call that my daughter, my oldest, who's now 27 now, but she was picked up from school. And I had to wait, and I had to wait, and I had to wait and they were trying to find relief for me, to get me to leave, but I couldn't get it. And I said, no. And I love taking care of patients. You love taking care of your patients, but like, they do not supersede my family, my kids. I just realized in that moment it was time for me to like step out. In addition to that, I started feeling that I was losing me. And for me, it was because I was trying to go up the corporate ladder, right? So a lot of code switching. Sometimes you get stuck on the other switch. If you know what I mean, like you don't reckon, you look in the mirror and like, who am I? How am I talking? Like in those moments is when I was like, and then I started depression and then all the things. And so there's so many other benefits to it too. I feel like I feel more alive as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. We're playing a game. I feel like I'm in a game. I'm actually out here in life, and it's something that I can't describe the feeling of something that like starts in your mind, like Inception, like this idea, then you write it down and that brings it to life. Then you actually show up in the space. Then you get a team member. Oh my God. Like the trainer, like I'm on the bike, like just keep going. And then like one of the little training wheels comes off and you just keep going. And when you say like, I could do this all night. Like I could stay up and think something through. Like if I get an idea and I'm like, okay, and then I could market it this way, you get in flow. Like it just flows through you, the excitement, the creativity that you don't get to do when you're under another organization. That's what it is. That's what makes you keep doing this. It's I get to express myself creatively. It's so much more. I'm learning something new. This is a whole new, like, I don't know, topic for me. Like entrepreneurship is something I can still learn new things after becoming a doctor. Like I'm learning, I feel like I'm back to the beginning of learning something, and that's exciting too.
So let's talk about, because we kind of mentioned like the highs and the lows, and we know that. And what people don't know is that most of the time you have way more lows than highs, but those highs overcome the lows, right? So it's like low, 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 high, but that high is like way up here. You done forgot about all them lows, and then you do it again and again. And so one of the things that one of my big moments as an entrepreneur was when my money was not tied to my time. And I woke, and this is something so simple and people are gonna laugh, but I woke up to $49. For me, it was a game changer. It was like, I did one body of work for this. Now that was when I started with my digital, right? In the aesthetic space, it was when I started selling products. So like, people would buy from my store on the back end, and I'm like, oh, are they set up a subscription? And I'm like, okay. It just hit different, and the ceiling was determined by me. So it wasn't like if my boss liked me or not, decided to give me that 3% or give me 2% for whatever reason. It was like, I realized. So what have your mindset been shifted as far as your earning? Even as a physician, physicians make great money. We know that, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have a cap. Like you in this, it's like really how many clients you can get in and how many can you actually treat in this space, and you decide what the investment is for these treatments. So have you had a moment like that, or what would you say?
I had a few. Yeah.
I know we interviewed, remember we talked about on Zoom that time when you did that sale and you were like, 4 hours, you decided, you can share that story. So
I'll share a couple, but like, yeah, briefly, like the first time I actually used the little Stripe and someone used their credit card and the money showed up in an account. Like, I was like, wow, like it's happening, you know, for something that I thought of, something I created, just a thought, like in the beginning, just a thought. People getting excited, loving their results, and then signing up for the next thing. I'm like, you like what I have to offer. I have something to offer. And it's just like, oh my goodness. And it's quick. Like an appointment can be super quick. And I'm like, another time, like, yes, I love like people buying the gift cards, wake up and it's like, ooh, we made some money today. And I didn't have to do it. You know what I mean? Like I just shared who I was and what I have to offer and people like it. That is a really reaffirming feeling. Bringing nurses in to work with me that had the same mindset, like especially my mom nurses, that's just like, you know, I need something where I can come drop my son off, come in, work some hours, go pick him up and go home and like live a good life and still make enough something to supplement, to buy yourself something nice and eventually, hopefully, to be here all the time. That's really reaffirming. Yeah, we made my first $5,000 day. That was insane. And in just a matter of less than like 6 hours, it was just like, you don't know that you have something to offer until you put something on the table. You got to put it out there. But being, you know, at work, which is still, we all as doctors, as nurses, we have some of the hardest jobs. We really love our patients. We can take care of our patients, but you don't get to create something and share yourself and be yourself at work. And that's where the tension, I think, comes in.
Who do you think should not become an entrepreneur?
If you don't have what I refer to as grit, like that can't be taught. Like we can talk about it all the time, but if you haven't gone through something where you felt low and you climbed yourself out, not your mom pushed you out, not a friend, you know what I mean? You can have support, but where you were at a low point in your life, just think about it, and you had to climb yourself out, that starts the grit. Like that starts to give you like, okay, it's not the end of the world. I can be down and come back up. Because that's what entrepreneurship is. You know, like at times there are going to be lows, like we said, but can you use that as fuel instead of like feeling like, okay, it's over, I'm done. Like I tried, it failed. No, like there is no fail. So I had learned that being a mom through residency. Like when I graduated, I was Superwoman. You couldn't tell me anything. I'm ready to go to the top. Like you could not question me about grit. Like I haven't slept in 3 years. You understand? Like literally sleeping at the hospital, calling home, like in the beginning, pumping breast milk, so like God, working 24 to 26 hour shifts. I love it. You see what I mean? So the grit was there. I just had to tap back into that. You know, I think I got comfortable getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. A nice one. Never had that. You know, I'm from Baltimore. This was very different. So I'm like comfortable. And then it's delusional to feel like something's still missing. But you know it. If you know yourself, the more you get to know yourself, I was like, something is still not right. This is insane that something's not right.
Okay, you say you're from Baltimore. I'm from South Central LA, right? So when I reached whatever level, I don't even know what it was, but where people started to be like, oh, you make good money type of thing. And then I still wasn't satisfied. I felt guilty. I was like, am I being greedy? I did not feel fulfilled. I still felt, like you said, something was missing. So here you are, a girl from B-More, right? Now you're a doctor, you're bringing in great money, and you dare to like, you're not sad. Did you ever go through that guilt? Did you ever feel like, I want more? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not happy? This was my life dream. Did you ever like struggle with like, am I just asking? Like any of that?
Briefly.
I did. Okay, tell me
briefly, like maybe 30 seconds. It's fleeting.
Attention aspiring entrepreneurs in the healthcare industry. Have you ever dreamt of starting your own successful IV hydration business? Well, your dream is about to become a reality. Imagine a business where you can make a difference in people's lives while building a thriving venture. we're excited to invite you to a free webinar that will unlock the secrets to launching a successful IV hydration business. Join us for an exclusive event where industry experts will share invaluable insight on the essential steps to launch your IV hydration business, building a six-figure business from scratch, navigating the challenges in the healthcare entrepreneurship journey. But that's not all. Attendees of the webinar will get a sneak peek into our comprehensive IV Hydration On Demand course. Discover how this course has empowered others just like you to turn their passion into profit. Picture this: lifetime access to in-depth video trainings, business strategies, SOPs, and exclusive bonuses that can catapult your success.
Register now for our free webinar at https://apply.trueusavvy. That's truusavvy.com/training. Don't miss this opportunity to kickstart your journey to a rewarding and lucrative IV hydration business.
Because I get so in touch with myself. Like, I do a lot of self-inventory. I spend a lot of time, like, at the end of my day alone in reflection. And what do I want? What do I really, really want? And for a while, I thought it was that. I wanted to be in family medicine because I work mostly a 9-to-5, on call every now and then. I get to be home, blah, blah, blah. And then you realize that's not all it's cracked up to be. And the sooner you learn, the dollars do not make me happy. It doesn't. Like, it definitely provides some comfort. Like, I'm comfortable. But with what I was making, I'm like, I've learned now doing self-inventory that the money is not going to make me happy. I need freedom. Okay, how can I make money to buy freedom? That's what's going to make me happy, is the freedom. So for a second, yes, I'm like, oh, you did all this, and now, like, okay, we can take it even further. I do believe that by investing in myself, investing in Medically Fab, over time, like, I'm going to have the freedom, the money to buy the freedom, the comfort. That matters so much more to me. I will take a pay cut in a heartbeat if it means I get an extra day with my son, I can travel. Like, that's what makes me happy. I'm so much better, I think, as a person when I have some command over my time.
That was going to be my next question. It's been 2 years. It's going on 2 years. And how would you say this journey has, because I always say there's a transformation, right? So you are being transformed. And, you know, I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying, people don't understand every level you reach, you're back at zero. Because you have never reached that level. So now you have to navigate through that. And then, okay, so your first 10K month, then you get your first 100K month, and then you get your first whatever. You're back at zero because now you have to figure out all the new things. Like, now that means you have more patients, you have, you know, maybe have more team members. Like, now you're reinventing yourself to be at that level and you're back at zero and you have to start over again, right? So what would you say has been some transformation, like some changes within you that has happened over these 2 years that you see how you have grown as an entrepreneur?
Transformation started with signing up for the course.
Signing up for the boot camp. That's my boot camp, y'all.
That's right. Seriously.
How was that?
It was great.
Let's Okay, but how was the decision made? Like, and we don't have to discuss the price, but like, once you, that was an investment, and we can invest in college easily. We know that. Like, we'll take out loans, we'll do whatever because we're supposed to be guaranteed a job. Okay, fine. But when you are now investing in your personal development, what I find is most people are like hesitant. I know I was too. Now it's a lot easier, but I remember my first investment, I was scared for a lot of reasons. So what was your process like when you decided to make the investment? Like, okay, you said that was where the transformation started. You started to notice it from an entrepreneur perspective, but what was that process like for you?
The process was, I was already working somewhere. I left that job. And I realized that people who have a lot more command over their time invest in their personal growth and development, not just college, right? Like, okay, that's one thing. But again, that's the pipeline to working for someone else, to really unlocking your potential, learning who you are, learning how to communicate, right? To actually be in relationship out here. That's not going to be learned in college, you know? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to invest in a course that will get me to opening my med spa. That's what I'm going to do. And so when I came across your page, I'm looking, I was like, okay, someone who looks like me. I saw testimonials. I was like, sign me up. You know what I mean? Because I know, like, I know who I am, and I'm going to be able to work this out. So let's work this out. I'll invest in a personal development, a course, a coach. I am terminally educated when it comes to, okay, like I got what I'm going to get out of that. I'm done. But how to unlock those next levels, like I'm talking like the Grant Cardones and like entrepreneurs who are really out here changing not just their lives, but their families' lives. And every team member who comes through them can grow beyond their own positions and open new things and be touched by. That's courses. That's where it comes into personal development and growth. So I'll spend money on that all day. It shows up in how I run my space and how people feel when they walk in here. I have great clients who are doing amazing things in their own lives, and they come in here to talk. A lot of times we just we talk. Like it's a whole key. Because they see what I bring. You can see it through, I think, my page, the things I talk about, the things I post. I try to be very encouraging because I'm enjoying my life out here. I'm having a good time. So I think people see that, and that's what I invite in. That's the energy I invite in. That cannot be taught in school. It's when you get it, you get it. You get it, you get it, I think.
And I think community too, like being around people and connecting with like-minded people. Like you were fortunate because you have some entrepreneurs in your family, so you were able to brace yourself and prepare. But I think one of the downsides for us as healthcare professionals in this space is we will retreat and go back and pick up, because we know we can always get a job, right? And so you have to have decided and like stick with that decision, high or low, I'm going to keep going. And I think for us, it's hard because we can always find work. So the minute you dip, you ready to dip and leave because it's easier, but you regret it because you were there and then you go back and you retreat. And so back to the question about the transformation, when you're investing in yourself, do you feel like I'm going to continue, like, because you saw the benefit of it, do you feel like this is something that you will always be doing for yourself that's how I feel.
Absolutely. Too. I'm always going to be, I am now, once we cracked open now this new level, right? Like to me, there's new levels of life every time that you try something new that you've never tried. I'm addicted. It's almost like, delusionally addicted to something new and like pushing myself to a new chapter further. How far can I go? So that I love how you said you're back at zero. You reach your 10K month and you're back at zero. I get a new zero every time I accomplish something that I didn't even know I could. That is the most addictive feeling. It's so like reaffirming. And even when you have a bad month, it's like, oh yeah, but I know I can do it because I did it before. So what am I doing wrong? I'm not having enough conversations. I'm not calling enough people. I'm not out, marketing enough. I'm not sharing enough. It's not about like selling to people. It's just, that's the transformation comes because of who I have to be to keep the place going. Who I have to be to train a new team member, who I have to be to learn from my team members. How can I be better? Like I feel like I'm just getting better and better in different ways beyond like just as a physician, beyond as a mom. I just feel like it's a new zero.
I love that. And once you have that in your mind, when you overcome whatever that obstacle is, you have now unlocked a new level of you. And that's the alive part that I'm talking about. It's like, dang, right? I look at my courses and I'm like, I go back and, I may be listening to one of my trainings. I'm like, dude, this was good. She good. Like, who is she, right? It feels good. It's like I thought a thing. You thought a thing. We are now sitting in your practice. You have team members. Because you dared to do something and act on that thought. And I think people don't realize now. I have one last question. I know you're busy, but I want to ask you about imposter syndrome, because I feel, this is just my opinion, I think everybody has it. I just think you have a way of living in the presence of it. Like you get better at like, okay, yeah, I'm scared, but so what? I'm still doing it, right? But people seem to think that is a reason, and I should say excuse, not to act because they have imposter syndrome. And I'm like, we all do.
We all do.
We all struggle with like, we have not been trained to think that we can, from the time we were 1 to 2, maybe, thinking we can be and do and have anything, right? Because you ask them what you want. I want to be a pilot. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a this, right? And soon enough, they start to just bottleneck you in and put you on some type of pipeline where you might want to think about being a plumber. Like, you know, you may not be the best such and such, right? So now we have to break down those walls, those hurdles that have been built up of our surroundings and all of that. But the imposter syndrome does not go anywhere. And I would love for you to speak about that. Even as a physician, how do you work in the presence of it, and what is yours like?
So the imposter syndrome for me started when I first got my long white coat. And again, like feeling like you're supposed to know everything once you get the coat, and then knowing like, I don't know everything yet, but I'm not supposed to, right? So as long as I don't give up, I'm going to keep studying. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to outwork everybody around me to the best of my ability, so that I know I've earned this and I feel good in it, right? And that took years and years and years to feel like I'm competent enough to actually be wearing this coat. I overcame it before. When I showed up here, I was familiar with it. I'm like, okay, this is a familiar feeling. I'm not supposed to know everything in entrepreneurship yet. And I'm humble enough to say, I don't know everything. I need a coach. I need friends. Like somebody come talk to me about this. Because again, we're starting from zero, a new starting point. And so I embrace the imposter syndrome. I think it's safe. I think it's safe to feel like I don't know everything, because that forces you, if you're humble enough, to find a support group. I think it's very dangerous to feel like, oh, I can do this and just get out there and go for it without any guidance, you know, feeling like you don't need a Sherpa or like somebody to show you through. So imposter syndrome, I love it. Like I'll embrace it as a positive. I'll see the positive in it and just keep working through. So I know, because of that grit I talked about at the beginning, that I can overcome things, including the feelings and limited beliefs I have about myself. I can overcome that too. So, and keep surrounding myself by people that have done it.
Exactly. And let you know that that it's normal. Like we really need to normalize it. And I feel like instead people use it as an excuse. It's like, oh, well, I just have, so what? Yes, you have imposter syndrome. Okay. That's because you haven't done it yet. And once you do it, you're like, dang, I did it. You start to be more confident. But again, as you grow, you get to a new level. Again, you feel like an imposter, because like, do I deserve, should I be here? How am I, you know? Yes, and you're going to go through that. So for those of you who are watching, you heard it from Dr. Williams. Everybody has imposter syndrome. That is not an excuse. And for those who are listening online. Okay, so we're going to wrap up, but I do want to ask you, if you were to give some advice to an aspiring or even a current new entrepreneur who is either struggling with getting started because they're so afraid. Like some people are literally stuck because they are so afraid to make a mistake, which is wild. And then other people are like stumbling through and they're like, what am I doing? Should I do this? What would be some advice or a book or anything you would recommend for any one of those groups of people?
If you're feeling stuck, do some self-inventory, okay? Start spending some more time with yourself outside of the noise, after the kids go to sleep, whatever. Collect the evidence. So my therapist taught me, and I'd stick with this, okay? Yes. Come on. Collect it. What is the evidence of things you have overcome? What is the evidence in your life? Collect your own evidence. What have you done where you were stuck before and somehow you got out of it? Write it down. Write it down, because that should help to reaffirm that you are capable, you know, of overcoming things. Embrace mistakes. We get one time on this merry-go-round. One time. Like, do you really want to be having or showing regret? Like, you want to be grumpy and angry and mean? Forget to take the chance now. While you have the time, while you have breath in your body, think of how many people you have taken care of on the floors that would love to be in your position right now. To switch places with where you are in that moment. You have the opportunity, and what's stopping you is your own mind, and you haven't thought. Think of the evidence that could push you forward. While you have a working body, a working mind, one time on this like YOLO. In the end, what is it all for, right? What is it all for? In the end, what is it all for? And if I can live a life that, like my son says one day, I want to be like you, or I like how you did that, then that's what it's about. I don't care how much money I make. You know what I mean? Like, I do want to make a lot, but okay, let me preface that. But in the end, what is it all for? So collect the evidence and try to get out of your own way. Your limiting beliefs are that. The book that you recommended that changed my life, Rachel Rogers, We Should All Be Millionaires. Start with the book before her workbook. She just came out with the workbook as well, but actually We Should All Be Millionaires helps me to take away the idea that I needed permission to leave, you know, to be who I want to be.
Especially as a woman of color too, because we definitely are positioned that we need permission. And and we don't even subconsciously, like, so yes, she's a bad, you know what, like she's like unapologetically go buy that $10 coffee every day if you want it.
And live a life that's enjoyable, because in the end, what is it all for? What is it all for? So, man, I could have a whole conversation by itself, but like, and
it's still relevant right now, you guys. That book came out probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it's still very much so relevant and necessary for especially women of color who are trying to break through the mind barriers that we have and the hurdles that we have in our own mind. And we have work.
That's a whole podcast topic right there. That's a whole nother 30 minutes.
Oh my God.
But yeah, absolutely.
All right. So last question is, where is Medically Fab going? Where are we going to be, do you see, in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your goal?
3 to 5 years, Medically Fab will have franchises. So we are working on our back end systems to be reproducible. So I like to start with the end in mind. And that was the end in mind, to be franchised across PA and hopefully out of state. I want nurses who are passionate about impacting and transforming people's lives, not just with the work we do aesthetically, but in who you're being when you walk in here. This is a haven. So I'm very specific on who I like to work with, because we got to keep a positive environment. I think aesthetics can sometimes feel like catty, but not over here. This is a haven. All right. So I want it to be a place where people just know wellness. They know that they're going to get good results aesthetically, but it's going to be a great place of inspiring other people, the patients, one another. That's what it is. So we want franchises, and we're going to have our tentacles out in the telehealth space for weight loss.
Yes, period. Okay, well, how can everyone reach you, follow your journey, and come get service if they're in the Philadelphia area?
Yeah, so if you're in the Philly, King of Prussia area, come on over at 198 Allendale Road, right in King of Prussia, across from the King of Prussia Mall. Okay, get you a handbag and come on over here and tell us about your day. You can find us on Instagram, MedicallyFab_beauty. All right, you can also find us on TikTok at MedicallyFab.
Yay. Awesome, Dr. Williams. You guys, this has been an amazing podcast with Dr. Williams. And if you know of a nurse or a physician who is an entrepreneur, or any type of entrepreneur, because you guys, we discuss principles, okay? It can apply to any industry. Make sure you don't gatekeep. Share the podcast. If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple, don't forget we are also on YouTube at Nurse Boss Shift. If you guys have specific topics you want us to talk about, make sure you share that with us in the comments, guys. Until next time, live from Philadelphia, you guys. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.